All right, guys, welcome to the first ever Lazy History podcast, where it's a very chilled, relaxed, and just two bros talking about history. And today we have a very special guest, my first guest, Prince of Macedon.
Hey, what's up, guys? Alex Khan here, known for my nerdy gamer tag, Prince of Macedon. And yeah, I'm here talking to you, Pixelated, for some lazy history.
Yeah, well, I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of like, what you've done and everything like that.
Okay, yeah, so I made a YouTube channel, Prince of Macedon. It mainly started because of Rome Total War, and that started because of my love for Alexander the Great. I'm pretty sure we'll go into that later on, but yeah, it all started because of Alexander the Great. My gamer tag is in homage to Alexander the Great. I'm not good enough to be a king. Maybe I'm decent enough to be a prince.
There you
So,
go. There you go.
yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Cool. No, yeah, I've loved your Total War videos for the longest time. That's the reason why I started a channel, because I was like, man, I remember your Medieval 2 siege. There was a specific siege battle which I always shout out all the time. It was like you were England, you were playing with the Byzantine Empire, and you were just trashing your teammate because he was like doing something stupid. But it was awesome. But anyways,
I'll be disgruntled, but
yeah. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about Alexander the Great. I'm sure a good amount of people have heard of him. As you can tell, Alex, you are a big fan of Alex, so
dude, he
yeah,
is great.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
okay, so we'll just jump right in here.
let's do it.
Why Alexander the Great? What is it because you share the same name? Was that legit? Like, oh wait, there's this guy named Alex. Hold on, let me read about this guy.
All right, so it's kind of the name. Well, I guess the name's kind of a bonus, but okay. So back when I was in grade school, we were learning about ancient Greece,
Hmm.
and I actually got into the Peloponnesian War first,
Yeah.
with the Spartans and the Athenians and all
Mhm.
their little auxiliary allies. But yeah, before that, I was huge into Sparta, right?
Yeah.
But once we got onto the topic of Alexander the Great, I'm like, what? This
Wait,
guy?
hold on.
Yeah, I'm like, who is this guy?
You're
And we only talked about him for like a day, or maybe 2 days. I'm like, how can we spend all this time on like the Peloponnesian War, and then we just kind of gloss over Alexander the Great?
yeah.
So I back then, I think this might have been fifth grade maybe. So I went out to the bookstore. I think back then it was called Walden Books, and I found this book, The Campaigns of Alexander. I was determined to do my own independent research on this guy because my teacher
Yeah.
wasn't going to spend time on him. I don't blame her, but I'm pretty sure she had a schedule.
Yeah. She was probably like, yeah, and then this guy he like conquered the known world, whatever, and then moving on. It's
Moving on.
like, wait, hold on. Like,
Yeah.
wait, you
But,
gotta.
but because of her, I did my own independent
Right,
research.
right.
And I freaking read about Campaigns of Alexander, and that's my favorite book of all time.
Yeah.
And I still have it, and I also have one that's written in Greek and English, which I can't read. But I bought it for the novelty. But
Hell yeah.
that's how I got into Alexander the Great.
That's awesome. No,
Love Sparta.
that's cool. And I'm sure you're a big Sparta fan before the movie 300.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
those guys are something else. I mean, you kind of look like a Spartan, because they would
Oh.
grow their hair out, their beards.
Well, stop it. You're making me blush. No, I'm just kidding.
Come on,
I
should we
need to
just
I need to lift a little more, but
lift some Persians?
Yeah, lift some Persians, some Athenians, throw them around. Those
Right.
silly Athenians and their philosophy.
Just kick 'em
No,
off a cliff.
yeah, just kick them, Yeah, hey, that was a brutal society. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
yeah, like, I mean, Spartans are very romanticized, I think. But if a lot of people who love Spartans, if you were born in Sparta, you would hate it. Like,
Oh yeah, like I'd be one of those babies that would be like cast out like
uh,
immediately.
yeah,
He's not a Spartan.
yeah, they'd be like, he's Asian. What that?
Oh, sorry. You can delete that if you want.
No, that's hilarious. I mean, I just didn't expect that because I assumed like if you were born in Sparta, you would be born as a Spartan. But yeah, you just, I mean, I wonder, do you
What is
think,
this?
I mean, like, what, I don't know. I'm sure people traveled. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't too common, but like if like an Asian woman traveled to Sparta and gave birth, and I mean like would Sparta even accept her as a citizen? They probably not. She'd probably be
Dude, I would have to like do a search into that, but I'm pretty
yeah.
sure they would not be treated as first class, Spartiates.
Oh, probably not. I mean, that's why I wondered like they'd just be thrown in the Helot, class just because they're not Spartan, you know?
Yeah, I doubt they'd put him like in the hoplite line.
Yeah.
Um,
But hey,
but yeah, maybe like further down the road they would
it's like, hey,
be more accepting.
maybe it's, well, yeah, further down, but like maybe because you ever hear that story of the Black Samurai?
Yeah, I have heard of that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So maybe somewhere there's a lost document of the Asian
yeah,
Spartan,
it's possible. 'Cause you know the story of Alcibiades?
No, no, tell me.
Well, in a nutshell, I believe he was Athenian. But this guy kind of like traveled around, pretended, but I think eventually he was leading Spartans around, if I
Oh,
recall
really?
correctly.
So he's
Yeah,
Athenian, and he is
yeah.
it
Oh shoot, I probably shouldn't have brought that up because I don't really know that much right now.
okay?
But
No.
I'm pretty sure. Hold on, let me wiki this really quick. After doing a quick search, yeah,
Yeah.
he wasn't really accepted as a Spartan, but he was more of an advisor who helped him defeat the Athenians on a few occasions.
Ooh, yeah, okay. So I guess,
So
Spartans were very, very strict about like, who's like
yeah,
who you are. Like, cause, to the average Joe, Athenian, Spartan, it's the same thing, they have a little bit
exactly.
different rules and stuff, but like it's essentially they're the same people, and that's crazy. That's just how dividing divisive it was between
Oh
the
yeah,
difference, and it took like a common enemy to like keep them together for a little bit, and they still killed each other,
exactly.
which
Yeah.
starts our story of Alexander the Great. We must start at the Peloponnesian War.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's start here.
So we've got the great story of the Spartans and the two powerful city states, and all the, like you said, all the minor ones who were taking sides, changing sides, and so Sparta ends up winning because Athens makes a pretty, and that was a long war, right? It was like 20 something, 27
Yeah,
years.
yeah, it was a very long attritional war, which pretty much it screwed Greece over because you have these two
Yeah,
powerhouses just knocking each other out,
yeah,
draining all the resources and manpower.
yeah.
It was not a good war.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. And even though Sparta won, it was like a pseudo like victory because they've lost so much. Like you said, it was so long and made them so weak. And then you got a dude from the north, Philip, who comes down.
Yeah, yeah. Philip comes down. Just a little shortcut here, but Philip comes down. Alexander comes down. Both of these guys don't mess with Sparta. They leave Sparta alone. Like at first, I think they asked Sparta to join in their Greek alliance, and then Sparta was like, "Yeah, yeah, we could join if we're the leaders."
Oh, oh, yeah, yeah. No, Philip was pretty good at like he was pretty good at like he's like, hey, like I know I just conquered you, but you guys just chill. Like you just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
In fact, I think he loved like the Athenian type Greek culture and kind of brought it over, right?
Um, if not, I think he presented himself as one of them.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, I know that Athens, Sparta, they kind of viewed the Macedonians as like barbarian Greeks. They weren't like full Greeks.
yeah, pretty much. But here's the thing though, like once Philip passed, once he kicked the bucket, all those Greeks went right into rebellion.
Mm,
So I think they might have respected Philip for his power.
yeah.
Maybe they smiled to him, face to face. But
Right.
once he was gone, they're like, "Ha ha, party time."
Dude, what the heck is it up with Greeks, man? Like, Philip seemed like a great leader. Like, was there any? I mean, I get like the Greeks love their independence and stuff, but he was like, he conquered them. He's like, all right, guys, just be you. I'm king, but just be you. So you think they'd be like, all right, we should kind of unify here, and you know,
Yeah, I think just the thought of any kind of influence from outside of their own city states is what turned them off.
yeah,
And that's kind of a recurring theme with the Greeks. They'd rather like kill each other than that has someone acknowledge autonomy over them. And they kept doing this up until the point where the Romans came in, and
Yeah.
then they didn't realize what was happening because they were too busy being Greek. And go,
Yeah.
oh, look at that, we're independent. Oh, who are
Yeah.
these guys?
Wait, who are these? Wait, what's this? You know.
Yeah, it's like,
Wait,
hey,
where's their phalanx?
yeah. Maybe it wasn't so bad being led by Greeks. Oh well.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Maybe the Macedon, Alexander really had something going, Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, because Philip, he revolutionized kind of the warfare a little bit. He really spent a lot of time creating new weapons, and I think Cav played a more of a important role for his like military tactics compared to like Sparta and Athens. I don't know if that
Yeah,
is
yeah. Philip spent some time, watching like with the
Thebes,
the
yeah.
Thebans. Yeah, so with Epaminondas, he basically showed Philip how to do the phalanx,
Oh yeah,
and yeah, increased sarissa length, the spear
right,
length,
right,
and then smaller shields so that they can wield this longer spear with with two hands instead of one.
right,
And then yeah, I think Philip was the one who revolutionized it by using combined arms approach. Adding more cav, and then also the auxiliary forces, which all the Greeks had auxiliary like skirmishers
right.
to bolster their phalanx. But I think Philip's the one that really went in there and go, hey, there's a better way. We can use cav for more decisive purposes, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much the military system that Alexander inherited.
Right, right. Yeah. No, and didn't they come up with some pretty gnarly like ballista type weapons? Like they could shoot like a quarter of a mile.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say who came up with that. Like Philip was using ballista in his battles too,
Yeah.
against the city states.
Yeah.
Um, but I think Alexander, I think he's the one who perfected the system.
Right.
Because like that kind of warfare, it all depended on its commander. Whereas with the Roman times, you can have a really crappy commander, and you can get by with just pushing right through. The only person who really exploited that was Hannibal. But with the Greek Hellenistic phalanx system, yeah, you needed the most perfect commander to lead it. It was so fragile.
That's curious. Because I never thought about it that way. Do you think that just the Roman system was so solid that it just like you could have half a brain and still be competent?
Pretty much, like a lot of these commanders were like pretty incompetent.
Yeah.
They just did it because they were rich.
Yeah, that's true. It's just like a high upper class, and they just had the money and resources, and kind of
Yeah,
put them in that position. Yeah, I mean that's really fascinating because that just is a testament to the Roman war machine and how effective it can be. I mean, they also had tons of numbers too, so they just kept throwing men at people and
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Like
yeah.
if you're good enough to beat one army, are you good enough to beat the entire Roman system? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, it's like that famous quote. If we keep having these victories against Rome, this war is gonna be over. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
King Paris, right?
King Paris. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so okay, so we have King Philip. He goes in, he asserts his dominance. He's a pretty good ruler. He's fascinated by the Greeks. I mean, he is Greek, but I'm sure there was some pretty big differences, at least in their eyes, of
Oh yeah, yeah.
culturally. I mean, they were busy fighting barbarians most of the time. So now they come down, a weakened Greek. They come down, they take it over, and he tells them, hey, let's just chill and you guys just help me out, you just join my forces. And then this is where, I mean, he dies shortly after, right? He gets assassinated.
Yeah, yeah, he
Yeah.
gets assassinated. People aren't really sure who was on top of the assassination attempt.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, because the bodyguard just like mowed down the assassin. Like
Oh yeah.
they didn't even question him or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
like yeah.
that's
I can see the bodyguard doing that, but he's probably pissed. He's like, "Oh my, you killed Philip, die."
oh yeah, I get it, the rage and anger, because Philip had to have been very loved, and
Yeah,
uh, um
but by most, anyways.
by most, of course, people are it doesn't matter who you are. If you're someone that's very loved, there's someone who very much hates you. Um,
Exactly.
so I mean, I know we don't know for sure, but what do you think? Who do you think assassinated King Philip?
Gosh, that's so hard to say. Like a lot of people could have benefited.
Yeah.
Like it could have been, Persians. It could have been city states. But with the Hellenistic rulers, man, it was no joke that these guys killed each other all the time. Definitely, Alexander would have benefited from killing.
Do you think Alexander would kill his own father?
It's hard to say because the other it didn't stop the other Hellenistic kings and
Oh,
princes
that's
from
true.
killing each other. It could have been his wife. It could have been his mom who
Yeah.
did it. Alexander's
Yeah.
mom.
That's true.
Um, or not Roxanne. Oh my gosh, what's her name?
You know, I don't know. I forgot her name too. That's why you're here. You're supposed to tell me.
I know. I'm gonna look it up. You
Okay.
just keep talking, okay?
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, because, one thing a great movie, and I know you shouldn't use movies as historical references, but Alexander the Great, the movie,
Oh, it's Olympia. Sorry, I can't believe I forgot that.
Olympias.
My bad.
Yeah. Well, it kind of the movie hints towards the mother killing Philip, and just kind of she has this like, oh, you are the chosen one, son. Like, this is your time. She hated Philip. I don't know if that's historically true. Did she hate Philip? I mean, I'm sure he was not exactly loyal to her.
Yeah, there were a lot of times where he would like that scene where he's coming in and just assaulting her.
Yeah.
I believe that's actually recorded.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I believe. She was weird. Basically, like she was this cult that was
Yeah.
even weird by by Philip standards. And then fellow Macedonians didn't really consider her Macedonian because she came from the same place. She came from Epirus.
Oh, okay. So she
Yeah,
was, yeah.
yeah. So she was not quite one of them, and that's why there were like Atlas was like begging Philip, hey, please take a Macedonian
Yeah.
as your wife, and he did. He eventually did get another Macedonian wife, and then that child would have been the ruler if, let's say, Olympias didn't assassinate him. Then that ruler would have been sitting on that throne. So like immediately after killing Philip, after losing Philip, they went to work on just taking out all their rivals. Anyone that could have been on the throne, they were taken out.
That makes sense. Well, now that you bring that up, I mean, maybe, yeah, maybe Alexander had a part in assassinating his own father because he saw that, hey, you're marrying this new woman, you have a new child. What's gonna happen to me? I feel kind of second class right now.
Exactly.
I mean,
So
yeah. Go ahead.
no, I'm just gonna say like in the movie hints that only the mother knew, and then Alexander was like so pissed. He's like, oh, why would you do such a thing to my father? I loved him.
Yeah.
Um, but realistically, it's like they could have been conspiring together because
Yeah.
it would have benefited him the most.
It's hard to say. I mean, it's so long ago, and it's obviously you can never get a person's personal thoughts, unless they kept a diary or wrote, personal letters to other people that are documented and stuff. But it's, that's why it's not fair to say like, oh, Alexander, he was all he hated his dad. But at the same time, he had to have learned so much from him, in terms of
Oh yeah,
warfare, that he
yeah,
had to. It's kind of like it's like a love hate thing where I'm sure without Philip there'd probably be no Alexander. Well, I mean, obviously, but I mean, like, in terms of what he learned from under his father, I don't know he would have been able to conquer the known world, you know.
yeah. Without that military system, it's hard to say.
Yeah,
I mean, he would have inherited something
yeah,
from his father, but to fight the Persians, he would need what Philip laid out for him.
yeah,
There's a famous quote where Alexander says, I thank my father for for being born, but I thank Aristotle for all my knowledge
yes,
and
yes,
education.
yes,
But yeah, I think clearly Alexander learned a lot about statesmanship and generalship from his father.
yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot that he would have had to learn from his father because like his father entrusted him to fight, alongside him in some battles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean he was fighting in battles like what, like 16? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah, he was
yeah?
a teenager.
That's insane because at 16 I was an idiot and I I would
I was getting
never.
a speeding ticket.
Yeah, I was stupid and like I could never like I mean I guess you could argue back then like you kind of had to grow up faster.
Yeah, yeah, you,
Yeah.
you had to. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. It's just amazing. The whole story about Alexander's is pretty crazy because when you hear about someone who's great, their children are usually they never live up to their father. You know what I mean? Like even today, if you look at like a professional athlete that's amazing, and then their kid tries to get into it and they're just never as good. They never make it.
it's definitely a rare thing.
So to have someone like Philip who is I mean, I feel like if Alexander wasn't born, Philip would have more of a spotlight for what he did, you know?
Oh yeah, it's like
Yeah.
he did so much for for Greece as a whole,
Yeah.
and he was on the verge of taking out the Persian Empire.
Yeah, and who
And
knows how that would have went. I mean, um but his son had a bigger shadow. I mean, he accomplished so much more than Philip or I mean, yeah, I mean, it was he conquered more, and it's rare to see that. Is basically what I'm saying. It's rare to see wow this great man did this great thing, and then his son did something even better. Like there's not many characters in history that you can think of who did that.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah, and yeah, that was the thing. Like after Alexander's death, it's like he didn't really have a successor. I mean, not legitimate one, and everyone just fought and fought, and it was crazy. It just tore up the Greek world.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure. It's just those Greeks. They're feisty.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and so again, going back to his assassination, it from what you've said, it looks like the mother, possibly Alex, knew. Like, it points towards her. Considering that he got a new wife, he had a new kid. She was gonna be old news. She was kind of weird. But it is possible that it was like a Greek, a former Greek king or someone of royalty that's like, what, screw this guy. But
Yeah, it could have been a Greek, could have been a Persian. I
yeah,
I think the Persians and Alexander would have benefited the most from an assassination.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
Well,
because
did so
oh no,
did oh I was just saying, did Persia know that Philip had his eyes on him?
there's no way they couldn't have known because
Yeah.
he's making up this giant Greek alliance. He already has troops stationed in Asia Minor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're already there. So
Okay.
it's like, hey, maybe if we take out Philip, maybe they'll call off this invasion, huh? And then Alexander was he's went on record as saying it's like, man, here's Philip. He's doing all these military accomplishments, and here's me still stuck at Greece.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but by taking out Philip, Alexander would have benefited from being the king and go, hey, we got this army, ready to invade. Hey, well, there's no king. It might as well be me, huh?
Talk about the balls on Alexander. If that was true, I mean, talk about I mean, he wanted that responsibility to lead an army, and
Yeah,
like to the point where possibly he killed his own father. Again, we don't know for sure, but
yeah,
just
it's all speculation.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
just that possibility of him being in that position and being like, you know, I'm sure he didn't. I'm so. Let me ask you: do you believe in destiny?
Probably not in the same way that these ancients did,
Yeah,
but these guys are like, oh, I claim this land won by the sword. I'm
yeah.
not quite that radical. I
Well,
think
I don't mean like as destiny as in some kind of crazy military conquest, but in the terms of like, you know, you have these people who Napoleon, he was very like fate, destiny, this is my destiny kind of thing, where they put themselves in these positions that are insane. Like, with again, going back to Napoleon, who's a huge fan of Alexander, he put himself in the front line many times and nearly died, but had this like crazy belief of destiny, like, I'm not gonna die. This is my destiny. Are you, in that sense, do you believe in that kind of destiny, like you're destined for something and that nothing's gonna hold you back?
I think one of the biggest things that keeps me living is that, hey, there's something really great at the end of all this journey.
Yeah,
Um, there's someone out there
like
for
hope.
me. Yeah, there's hope.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so I would say I'm not quite on that level. Uh, but to be fair, like Napoleon's conquest, Caesar's conquest, Alexander's conquest, like no normal person could have done that. It would have to have
yeah.
been somebody who believes in destiny.
Right, right. Well, that's the thing. Definitely, you have to believe in it, right, to do
Yeah,
these great
it,
things.
only that kind of person could have went that far
Yeah.
and sacrificed so much.
Because there's even times where, like, even with my own personal life, like you said, it helps. Like, I've struggled with anxiety, and there's days where I'm
I'm
like,
sorry.
oh, I mean, it is. We all carry some sort of burden, right? Um,
Yeah.
but there's days where it's like really hard for me to like go out and stuff. And sometimes when I tell myself, I'm like, no, like you're destined for more. Like this isn't the end. You're destined for more. And then I'll put on some like French Napoleonic marching music in the
Oh
car.
yeah.
And it makes you feel better, right? It makes you feel good. Even if you think you're lying to yourself, you're like, oh, that's what, it's all the universe is chaos and there's no rhyme or reason anything. You have those thoughts, but when you tell yourself like, hey, you know what, I'm destined for more, this is not how my story ends, or this is not how it's gonna be, there's more, it makes you feel better. So in a way, I guess what I'm saying is maybe destiny is not real, but by believing in it, it does give you that extra motivation to help you achieve things, better things.
Oh yeah. I think without destiny or some kind of belief that something's better out there, I don't see how anyone could keep on living like that.
Right, right.
It's like you need something that just keeps you going. Like whether it be a really sweet car or whether it be like, oh, I'm gonna be a doctor someday.
Yeah.
There's got to be something, some kind of hope for you.
Or
Otherwise,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah, you're just
exactly.
gonna
Could
be.
be anything.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah.
In
Could be
Alexander's case, it's I'm
conquer
gonna
the known
conquer the
world.
world.
Yeah. Which is very ambitious. Very,
Yeah,
very ambitious. So
that's a
I
different set of goals.
yeah, so I guess that's the kind of like, when I say do you believe in destiny, do you think Alexander is just like there was many Alexanders out there, but unfortunately they just never got to his position, or like they had an untimely death, or they weren't born to a son of a king, so they just never got into that position to lead armies? I mean, what do you think?
I definitely think that Alexander he had the ambition, but
Right.
he was born under perfect circumstances.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
he had this army ready to go. It was ready poised to take out Persia.
Yeah.
Um, he had the support system. He had it. He had it all. I
Yeah.
mean, he had to work for a little bit, of course. He had to like take out rivals, and deal with little rebellions and invasions from the north.
Yeah.
But everything about his rise, it had to do with the circumstances around him. But as you said, there's other ambitious people out there, but they don't quite have the same circumstances surrounding them, so they don't have that power to do what Alexander did. I
Right.
mean, that's my thinking. There's some people who would say that, oh, Alexander could have done this with any kind of army. I'm not sure about that, but he's
Yeah.
definitely a great commander. He did everything he could with what he had.
Yeah, and that's not to take away from Alexander. I mean, obviously, like he could have made a lot of blunders, and he created things that were genius during his military campaign that oftentimes saved the campaign. And
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
he was also at times super reckless, and like,
Mhm.
wow, this is really dumb, but it worked out. Like,
Yeah, he had to be. I mean, because of that type of leadership, it's like these guys expected their commander to be out there leading them.
right, right,
It it
yeah,
was it was a very hard thing to be a Greek or like a Hellenistic
yeah,
commander,
yeah,
especially as you said earlier, the people that followed in his footsteps, not exactly his offsprings, but the people who wanted to be like him. They're like, oh shoot, we got to be like Alexander. We got to
yeah,
lead this cavalry charge,
yeah.
even if it meant putting themselves in direct danger.
Right, right. Yeah, and yeah, and that's the kind of example he set, and That's crazy. I mean, again, going back to Napoleon, you could say the same thing about he was born at the right time, at the
Yeah,
right place. There was a French Revolution he took advantage of. That
exactly.
if that did not happen, he would never be a general, because you'd have to deal with the politics and work your way up. And maybe he would be general, but it'd be very late in his life. And he wouldn't have, been able to achieve everything that he achieved. And that's the crazy thing, is like, how many Napoleons, how many Alexanders the Greats have there been that we will never hear of, because they were just born at the wrong time, at the wrong place, but they had the genius, in them. You know what I mean?
Ex- exactly. Yeah, it's hard to say. Like so many variables lead
Right.
to the creation of someone great. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And a lot of luck. I mean, there's definitely a lot of hard work. I mean, again, I keep bringing up Napoleon, but it's just because I don't know. I just know more about him than any other military kind of leader or whatever. But he was an outsider. He read all these books. He read about Hannibal, Alexander, Caesar, and he just read and read and read. But it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have if you don't have the opportunity to be in a position to use your knowledge. That's just what's crazy to me. It's kind of like these people in history, of course they were geniuses, but they also in a way won the lottery, so to speak, of just,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. There's like no way. Say, let's say Alexander was in charge of. I don't know. Hold on. Let's think of an example.
if he was the CEO of Microsoft, do you think he'd be a good CEO?
If he had the upbringing, I could see him like just conquering everybody.
Con-
CEO.
yeah.
You could conquer the internet, conquer computers.
If Alexander was born today and in America with a similar, like, I don't know, like the same kind of like inspiring father, let's just had great modern age philosophers teach him stuff. Do you think he would be like an entrepreneur or...
Oh yeah, I think Alexander would take advantage of this pandemic and say,
yeah, yeah,
"Guys, this is not the way we do things."
yeah,
And then,
oh yeah,
yeah, we have the American military system, which is undisputably one of the best in the world. You got the resources,
yeah,
the
as of now.
manpower.
As of
Yeah,
now.
as of now, he could go back into into Persia and go, "Hey guys, I'm Alexander Reborn. I'm
yeah.
taking what's mine."
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I suppose, I guess, yeah, it's like, would Alexander go into the... I feel like it's just different though, like...
It it'd be different. He'd probably spread into like Mexico and Canada, and then kind
Well,
of
that's
work his way down
that's
to
not what I
California.
meant, but...
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Continue.
No, I mean, that'd be great, conquering the Canadians, like...
Right.
No, I guess what I was saying is, like, in the US military, it's definitely, in today's time, it's harder to just be like, hey, I control this now. You have to work your way up, for obvious reasons. There's no more kings or anything. And
I mean, as president, you would theoretically be the commander in chief.
that is true. Do you think
So
Alexander would be a good president?
I think he would have a great set of advisors around him, just like how he did with in his times. He had like the greatest advisors and
Yeah,
all that stuff around him, and he did utilize them
yeah,
up until a point. And
yeah,
I think he would do the same with the Americans, especially if he was still learning the system. He had one of his greatest things was adapting.
yeah.
So he would learn the American way of doing things, and I think he would just own it.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like you said, adapting. I feel like that's the key to everything, is adapting. If you don't adapt, doesn't matter if you're president or an ancient leader or a football coach or a YouTuber. If you don't adapt, you lose, and you have
Yeah,
to.
yeah, you're gone.
Yeah. Do you know much about the Stoics by any chance? This is a little off topic, but...
Not really. Give me some names.
Well, I mean, like, you have Zeno. He's kind of the one that kind of established the Stoic philosophy. You have Marcus Aurelius, who is not Greek but inspired by the Greeks, who wrote you know, the
Oh yeah,
meditations.
I read it. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's basically the Stoics is basically it's a very like non-religious spiritual point of view where it's kind of like you the just how you act in the face of adversity.
Okay.
And yeah, and I was just gonna ask, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure Stoicism was around during Alexander. I don't know when Zeno was. I the dates, I don't have the dates exactly, but I wonder if there's any sense of Stoicism. I mean, obviously there's Stoicism in Alexander, but I was just kind of wondering if you knew anything about that and whether it played in his character or whatnot.
He definitely embraced all kinds of philosophies.
Yeah.
Um, there was that one philosopher who was, trying to get like like a suntan. Alexander stood above him. The guy was like, yeah, I don't really care who you are, but can you please get out of my sun, please?
That's
And then,
amazing.
yeah, Alexander was like, man, if I could be anybody else, this would be the guy right here. Um, and there are elements where he was hanging out in India and just spending days upon days, learning the philosophies of these Indian thinkers.
Yeah.
So I think whether it was there or not, I think Alexander the Great would have been very open to different ideas because like he always showed that in his campaigns.
Well, in a way that alone, that characteristic is stoic, as in like you have an open mind and you take in other people's accounts and you kind of listen to others and kind of apply what they say and you know I
Exactly.
yeah, I think that's what makes anybody who's super curious. I mean, that alone probably made Alexander great, is the fact that he was curious about the East.
Yeah, he
For
was.
yeah,
Yeah, like I think that's one of the good things that the movie got right. It was Alexander learning about these different animals when he
yeah,
went east. He's like,
yeah.
oh, monkey.
Monkey, what's this?
Yeah, because that he definitely had that curiosity because he was the one that wanted to find a way back from India back to back up Egypt back into Greece.
Yeah,
That was all his doing.
yeah,
So he had Nearchus in command of that fleet. He goes, "Hey, we're gonna sail this fleet around. If my curiosity and calculations are correct, this should work."
yeah, yeah. No, for sure. I mean, Alexander was pretty inspiring in that regard about just soaking up as much knowledge as possible. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that's probably what made him great. I wanted to go. So when he went into Egypt, they treated him like a god, right?
Uh huh.
Yeah. Why did that happen? I don't understand, because this was before he did any major conquests, right?
Well, I mean, he did pacify Greece. The thing is, with the Egyptians at the time, they considered their rulers to be the embodiment of the gods. So
Okay.
by him taking over Egypt, that automatically made him a god.
Yeah, they just kind of showed up and they're like, "Hey,
He
this."
had the power,
Yeah,
and they didn't really question it. It's like, hey, this guy, yeah,
yeah.
he's
This guy
divinity.
is this guy is pretty cute. let's,
Yeah, this guy's
let's
pretty cute.
let's put a
Yeah,
city, name a city after him.
yeah, they made statues in his honor, and
Yeah,
yeah, he had so many grand plans for Egypt, which
yeah,
he didn't really get to do himself, but his successors did.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, so that was just the way things were back then.
yeah. But yeah, Egypt was very like Greekified. Like
Yeah, yeah, it
yeah,
started with him. Yeah, they they
yeah,
they all did
yeah.
that kind
Like
of stuff.
Cleopatra was like half Greek, and you know, like a lot of people don't know that. I guess they think of like modern Egypt, or they'll think of
Yeah,
like,
I'm pretty sure she kept it in her blood though, all the Greekness in her blood. I think.
yeah, she was Greek. She was. I mean, I'm pretty
I mean,
sure.
like pure Greek.
Oh, you think? Oh, was she?
Yeah, because like those rulers, they pretty much kept it in their bloodlines.
Let's see, Cleo.
Yeah, you can look it up. I was thinking like that's just the way the Greeks did things too. They married within their own like
Yeah,
royalty.
kept it like pure or whatever.
Yeah, so that could have been
Oh yeah,
also
yeah,
a cause of resentment too. It's like these locals are, hey, they're nothing like us.
Oh, she was Macedonian.
Yeah.
Wait, okay. For some reason, I was like, yeah, she's half Greek. No, she's like straight up.
Yeah,
Uh,
I believe she came from the Ptolemaic line. He
yeah,
was the one that took over Alexander in Egypt
yeah,
when all the kingdoms broke up.
yeah, and she embraced the like, Egyptian culture and stuff. But she was like,
Yeah, pure
Macedonian.
Greek.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, well, one
dude.
of those cool if you don't mind me still talking, but one of those
No,
cool
you're good.
side things in Egypt that Alexander did, he went to this Siwa, which is
Yeah,
out in the desert. And like,
yeah.
hey, you know what? I still have this war going on with Persia, but I'm gonna take a few weeks to do a little sightseeing. I'm gonna get lost in the desert. I'm gonna look for this place where they prophesize.
Really?
Where they prophesize things, and it's kind of a tourist trap. What it
Right.
really was, it was just people like standing behind the wall and just telling people, you know what they wanted to hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. If you go into Persia, yeah, you're totally gonna take it, man.
So this
You,
this was the first ever. So when you go to like on vacation, you go to those little towns where there's like a
yeah,
psychic reader. This was like the first ever.
pretty much. Because the people are like, we still have this campaign to complete. He goes, nah, it's
Yeah,
good. I got this, guys.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's really, and that was in Egypt.
Yeah, it was. It's called Siwa. It was out in the middle of the desert, and they had a hard time finding this place because this is before like GPS,
Yeah,
before
yeah,
navigators.
yeah. Or MapQuest.
Yeah, MapQuest
Remember
with the printouts.
MapQuest? Yep, yep.
And this guy goes out there. It's
It's
like,
like,
yeah, I want to ask him some questions, guys, about my divinity. Yeah,
yeah, it's
totally.
like, dude, what? Like, come on, bro, it's a scam. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. I wonder if
Um,
anyone told them that. They're like, dude, I've been there. Scam.
yeah, don't do it.
I
No,
spent $5 and she just told me what I wanted to hear. None
yeah,
of it came true.
exactly. It's kind of hard, but like with Alexander, it's like if he heard like really good things, it's like, oh yeah, I totally believe this.
Yeah, of
It totally fits.
course. Of course.
It fits with my destiny.
Yeah. And they'll say the classic psychic reading technique is saying something so broad, and like,
Yeah,
oh, you are destined for great things. Oh,
exactly. You will cross a desert.
oh,
You
I
mean the one I
I
just
I just
crossed?
crossed the desert. It's
Exactly.
like, yeah, yeah, Alex, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there'll be hardship ahead of you.
Like, oh, whoa.
Right.
That's funny because like I'm kind of constipated and
Exactly.
yeah. So that's really interesting because again, I'm such a Napoleon freak, but what is it about these great leaders going to Egypt and having these like crazy experiences? Because there's a story of Napoleon going in, I believe, one of the tombs alone and having this like super like this weird experience. It was like a paranormal experience, so to speak. Have you heard
Very
about that?
spiritual. Yeah, it's a very spiritual. I don't know the exact circumstances, but I know back in the day, like Romans, people afterwards, they would go to Egypt just to look at Alexander's corpse.
Yeah,
Because apparently it was like a clear sarcophagus or something. I forget what the deal was, but they would go there and just to soak up and be inspired by Alexander's body. I don't think his body was there during Napoleon's time. I forgot the situation there, but
if it was, he would have written about it. So I don't think it was, because he would have.
okay.
That would have been a big like. He spent days looking at his body, or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. It,
Uh,
it disappeared at some point,
yeah,
but yeah, like all these great Romans would go out there, and it was very spiritual for them because
yeah,
they loved Alexander the Great. Caesar wept when he was like, man, Alexander conquered the world when he was like what 20, 30,
yeah,
and here I was just a lowly like governor.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, they really looked up to this guy, and for Napoleon's sake, like even in Alexander's time, Egypt with all those pyramids, that was still considered like prehistory to them.
yeah,
It was a spiritual place. Like so
yeah,
many great things happened there. You know, you had those great battles
yeah.
out there. It was also from from biblical times.
That's true. It's just early human civilization. There's so much history there, and yeah, I guess Napoleon went into like a pyramid or a tomb or whatever, and I don't know the exact details, but he went in alone, and then like somebody was waiting for him. He came back like white in the face, like totally shocked, and he's like, "What happened?" He's like, "I don't want to talk about it." Like he saw something that
Gotcha.
that
I'll have to
spooked
look it
him.
up.
Yeah, it could be myth, it could be legend. You know, it could have never have happened.
It could be like a big publicity stunt.
Yeah, like the British, like Napoleon afraid of Egyptians, you know, like
It's like, hey, he spoke to the gods.
or yeah, or that, you know, yeah, exactly. You know, he spoke. Yeah, and like you said, you know, he had that famous speech before the Battle of the Pyramids where he's like says like generations are looking down upon you, and you
Yeah.
know, it's like yeah, so yeah, Egypt has this, and you know, that's one day I hope to visit Egypt when it's a little safer and stuff. But like, it's just one of those places. I mean, you have the Mummy movies, you know,
Yeah,
just
the
kind of
mummy
the
movies.
magic of Egypt and the mystery, and yeah,
Yeah, it's just situated so perfectly, like where it's at,
yeah,
and yeah, but it was known even in Roman times as the breadbasket
yeah,
of the Roman Empire. It's like so much grain. It was just such a rich place.
yeah, yeah, and that's why it's, you know, one of the earliest of the Nile, just providing so much resource and material, and
Yeah.
yeah. So that's really fun. And you bring up, and I remember. So if you guys are listening, this is actually our second time doing this because I recorded a podcast with you a long time ago. It was like months ago, and I never uploaded it because I hated it. I don't know. I just didn't feel like
Oh shoot. Maybe I can upload it to my channel.
yeah, you can. I think this one's way better so far. But
Can I say one thing?
yeah, go
I,
ahead.
I want to apologize to the viewers. I haven't read about Alexander in like years, so
Dude, hey,
a lot of
hold on.
things I'm
I'm gonna
talking about
stop you
is
there. I'm gonna stop you there. This is a channel called Lazy History, all right? This is what that's
okay.
all about. It's just, you know, you ever see those memes where it's like someone says something crazy and the source is, "Dude, trust me." You ever see that's what
I have
lazy
seen them like
history
that.
that's what lazy history is. Yeah, you know,
What's
Alexander
lazy I am? Like I've got Alexander books right next to me. I could easily just pull them off the shelf and look it up, but I'm too lazy, guys. Too lazy.
just dude, trust me, all right? This happened.
Yeah,
Uh
let it happen, guys.
Yeah. So no, don't worry about it. We're all having fun here, and people can always add on in the comments or where
True.
however they're listening.
Yeah,
Um
yeah. Can all wiki the information yourself.
yeah, wiki it. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
wiki guy.
Yeah. um but yeah, I wanted to bring up the last time we talked about his death and what they did with his body, which I did not know, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know. That when he died, they just kept him around like a puppet, almost like a mannequin just sitting there.
Yeah, it's kind of like Weekend at Bernie's. Like
Yeah, exactly.
you've got the body there. As long as the body's there, it legitimizes everything that's happening at these meetings with the generals.
Yeah,
And yeah, so the first chance anyone got, to take over this body, someone took it, and that was Ptolemy, taking the body back to Egypt, which we just talked about,
yeah,
Egypt,
yeah.
and that gave him so much legitimacy just because he had Alexander's body
That's
right there.
insane, and that seems extremely disrespectful to
Oh, it
Alexander.
is.
Yeah, because I mean, you have this guy from Macedon. You know, he dies in not his homeland. Obviously, he dies. It was in India, right? Or was he on his way back?
It was in the Persian Empire.
Yeah,
It was either Persepolis or oh my gosh, what's the other one? It was definitely one of the Persian capitals.
yeah. So, I mean, you would think, all right, here's this great man. He did this. I mean, I don't know. How are the Greeks feeling? You know, after everything he's done, he's near the end of his life. You know, before he dies, are they like, man, Alexander's awesome, or were they like, man, I'm sick of his shit. Like, I'm done with this guy.
It was a combination of both.
Yeah,
Like back home, Alexander's sending all these riches back from Persia, things that belong to Greece.
yeah,
They go, oh, this guy is so great, but where is he?
yeah.
He hasn't given us, a legitimate heir yet. I think his commanders had more of the love hate thing.
Yeah.
It's like they hated that they were away from home for so long, and they just kept going and going and going. But at the same time, they loved him because he was winning victories upon victories.
Yeah.
Because later on, when the Celts were invading Greece, they were like, this is like hundreds of years after him. They're like,
Right.
where are our leaders like Alexander who could have saved us?
Yeah.
Like they actually had quotes
Well,
of this.
yeah, it always makes sense way after for the love,
Yeah.
because someone gets kind of like romanticized and kind of
Oh,
they become a
exactly.
legend and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I that makes sense. I could definitely see like the soldiers below him either love hate, where it's like, dude, I'm tired. Like this is cool and everything, but what's the point? Like what is the
Exactly.
point? And
But once you get your way, it's like, oh shoot, this guy did do a lot of things for us.
right, and not
Not such
only
a douche to him.
yeah, what's that scene where he's doing a speech and someone like throws something at him or something? He's like, "Who
Oh
did that?"
yeah, it's one of those famous mutinies where in
Yeah.
the movie they kind of combined it into one mutiny. It's
Oh,
like, who did that? Name yourselves, coward!
yeah.
Arrest that man!
They made him so emotional in that movie. Do you think he was? I mean, it's impossible to really know, but do you think he was that like emotional?
So yeah, the books don't really say, but you can kind of gather. I mean, he wasn't. He was kind of a young person, what
Right.
30s,
Yeah.
and you have all this stuff, and he's still human. I think any human would have got emotional, and that
Yeah.
when your closest people start questioning everything that you're doing,
Yeah. I
I don't
mean,
think anyone's gonna be like so perfect. It's like, well, that's not the way I do things.
right.
That's wrong with me.
Yeah. I'm Alexander. That's true. Well, I mean, I think they potentially put up a front in front of the soldiers. I think most leaders do that. Like Napoleon did that, where he would like, apparently he would go up to the soldiers' cheeks and pinch their cheeks and like would
Yeah,
leave a little red mark, and they would be like, "Look, he touched me," like
yeah.
yeah. I'm sure like there was a sense of that, but maybe behind closed doors he was very emotional about certain stuff.
Maybe I think with the mutinies though, like I think they had that front going on for the longest time, but those mutinies were just blatant,
Yeah.
like open rebellions in his face.
So yeah, talk about that. How many mutinies were there?
There were two main mutinies. You have the mutiny of Opus, and then you have the mutiny of oh shoot, Hyphasis. I forgot.
Well,
But
okay, so was Opus the first one?
I would have to look that up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, just explain what was the reason behind them? Was this late in the campaign where they were just getting tired of it, or
So one mutiny was basically Alexander wanted to incorporate, Eastern troops into his army,
yeah?
and he was going to send these veteran Greeks back home. Wait a minute, you're going to replace us?
Okay.
No, you can't do this. No,
So
you can't do that.
for me, I'd be like, you know what? I kind of want to go home. Like I've
Yeah,
been
I
here
think
for
I
a
was the
while.
first. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, the second mutiny, I think that was is around Hyphasis, and they were
Mhm.
like, "We just beat these Indians in this great battle, the Battle of the Hydaspes, yeah.
Mhm.
But now you have these guys telling us there are bigger armies like that with even more elephants.
Yeah.
They're like, F that. There's
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
We are not going to continue this.
Well,
That's it."
it's impressive alone how much he got, his army to push, because usually you need a reason to fight, you know what I mean? Like the best reason is defending your homeland. That's gonna put most people to fight to the death, so to speak. It's like, hey, let's defend our homeland. For him, he's
Yeah.
pushing into these distant lands. At first it was like the Persians, right? And it was just like, oh yeah, let's kick their ass, like come on. Yeah,
Revenge.
yeah. And then eventually they do, and then they just keep pushing and pushing. And I'm sure
Yeah, they,
as a soldier, you got to be like, all right, like what are
this is
we
never
doing?
going to end.
Yeah, what are
Yeah.
we doing here?
Yeah, you had that whole campaign when you're in Bactria too, fighting up in the mountains, and
Yeah,
it's just a whole alien concept.
yeah. It's just like, where are we? And that's the amazing thing. He never lost the battle. Like he never
Yeah,
lost the battle, and he's in these like distant worlds and with troops that might not militarily be effective in these different terrains. Again, I'm sure he had to adapt to
yeah, he made use of auxiliaries too.
yeah,
Yeah, again, he did adapt.
yeah.
And as a from a military standpoint, he was incredible.
Yeah.
But as a ruler, it's like, why are we still doing this?
Yeah. So,
I don't know why.
would you say as a ruler, he wasn't like a great statesman?
He should have had a I don't know, a better rotation system where he was having fresh troops come in and out, but
Yeah.
it's such a long supply route.
Right. Well,
Um,
it's so long that you kind of have to use auxiliary troops. Like it's just
yeah, but it's at that point, it's like even if you're working for like an employer, you find out that you're being overworked. Let's say
yeah.
you're working like 60-hour weeks, 60 hours a week. It's like this is too much, and there is going to be a breaking point, and they reach that breaking point many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
what led well, you said the first mutiny was because of the auxiliary and that they didn't want,
yeah, that
these
they're being integrated into Eastern ways. It just wasn't sitting well with them.
yeah.
And then the second time, that's when they fought at the Hydaspes, and they were like, "Aha, we won a great victory!" And they're like, that's just the first of many to come, guys, and they're much bigger. You think that was a lot of elephants, guys? Wait till you see the next king.
So
He's got
that
like quadruple the amount.
so the second mutiny that so it's kind of at the end of the campaign.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like they already fought their great battle,
Okay.
and it's just too much. And then so he finally agreed to turn back,
Yeah.
and then some say he punished them on the route that he chose, through the
Oh,
Gojosian Desert.
yeah.
But that might have been the best route because that kept them closest to their fleet. So
Oh, I see. Yeah.
hard to say, but yeah, but there were mutinies. It's just that at a certain point, you're human. You will have a breaking point.
Right, right. Doesn't matter who
Maybe
you are.
not Alexander, but his
Mm,
troops.
that's a great example though you made with like it's almost as if you worked for a company and you were the soldier was the employee, Alexander was the CEO or the boss or whatever, and they're going in and like think of a company doing really well and the CEO's in the spotlight and
Yeah,
he's getting all these riches and sure he's passing some of it down, but most of the glory, most of the riches going to Alexander. What do you think this whole campaign, especially towards the end, it was a very selfish thing Alexander did? Like he at a point where it wasn't even about conquest or defeating the Persians or whatever. It was just about how far can I go and set a legacy for myself.
yeah. I definitely think there was an element of selfishness, but going back to his character, I think there's also the element of curiosity. It's like, what is at the end of the world? We're gonna keep fighting and find out. We're gonna keep exploring. He was an explorer. He was also a
Right.
military man.
Right.
But I don't think his men saw it that way. I think when they set out to do their thing, it was purely to get revenge against the Persians.
Right.
But when that was accomplished, it's like, why are we still doing this? It's like we've already done what we set out to do. We want to live our lives now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you could argue that his curiosity was selfish, like because it was kind of his own curiosity and he wanted to explore it at the fate of his own soldiers, like I mean, and again, he fought, he risked his own life. It wasn't like he was sitting back there in a tent eating olives and he's like attack the right, like he,
Going.
yeah, he put his life on the line many times. So again, like I'm not trying to make out he's like some selfish person, but I think like
Yeah,
possibly
I think he was this really great person, and you really shouldn't expect your employees to do everything that you're doing too.
right, right.
It's like he might want to like go into outer space. That doesn't mean people below him want to go into outer space.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're content. They're like, "Hey, I think we've done enough. Like, I think we're good." The,
Yeah, so I think yeah, he was selfish, but I don't think it was complete selfishness. It's like
right.
he really wanted to do these things, but I don't think he understood it from the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so say they're leaving. Let's say they're headed back. Alexander doesn't die. Do you think he would have been able to be a good enough statesman to keep the empire going? Again, this is
If he
subjective, but
Yeah, if he had time to consolidate what he had, because that entire campaign with him just taking up new territory.
right.
If he had time to consolidate all that, because he already had, his commanders going to certain regions and ruling over those areas.
Right.
It all broke apart when he died, though, so he did not get to consolidate any of that.
Okay. So you do think that the empire would have been mostly intact if he
Yeah,
stayed
because
alive?
it did stay apart. I mean, it did stay together after his death.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Yeah, until the you know civil wars and then Romans, uh, the what do you call them? The Parthians.
Oh, right, right.
Uh, all kind of outside influences eventually broke him, but it didn't happen overnight. Now,
Right.
let's say Alexander stood there and consolidated, there would have been no civil war.
Yeah.
If he kept passing on a legitimate heir that everyone respected,
Mhm.
there would have been no civil war. That would have stayed together. That would have been a united front against Rome, against all these outside
Mm.
influences.
That's
'Cause here,
true. I
yeah,
mean,
he already had ideas of going west. He had ideas of going into Arabia. He wanted to punish the Carthaginians. He wanted
right.
to eventually go into Italy because
Ooh.
he knew about the Romans, even though they were this little tiny.
That's really interesting. So again, another subjective question here. If if the empire, if he didn't die an untimely death, they had an heir that people respected, because I know he had a child with like an Eastern
Yeah,
woman,
yeah.
and they
He
didn't
had
really respect
yeah,
him.
with Roxanne.
Roxanne, yeah. Roxanne's such a modern name that when you hear it, it's like, there's that famous song Roxanne from the Police. You know,
Exactly.
so when you hear it, it's like you just don't. It's like that ancient woman, Roxanne. It's
Exactly. But yeah,
but
sticking with that really quick. Sorry.
no, you're good.
This is what happened with Philip too. Once Alexander died, whoever wanted that throne, they immediately went to work assassinating anyone in his bloodline. So they killed
Damn,
they killed his offspring.
that's got to be terrifying, being a son of a leader.
Yeah, that's why I think it was definitely in faith of what other Greeks were doing, like royalty and military commanders. They would definitely,
Yeah,
without hesitation, kill to get that throne.
that's insane. That's insane to me, because it's like, here's this guy you loved. This is his child. You're just gonna kill him for your own power? Like, that's. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess it's not insane, but
yeah. We're
um,
not sure how he died. There's so many ways, but once he did die, they wasted no time in getting to
yeah.
work.
Like, all right, how many kids you got? All right, let's take them out.
Let's take
Yeah,
care of him. But
yeah,
yeah, man, if he stayed there, shoot, it would have been a different story.
yeah. So that's what I wanted to bring up is, do you think his empire would have been what Rome became? Do you think he would have conquered like all of the Mediterranean, or maybe not him himself, but the Greeks?
Oh,
Because
I mean, as I was saying, yeah, he definitely already had plans for Arabia. From Arabia, go along that whole Mediterranean coast,
yeah,
go through, take out Carthage.
yeah, and then
Cause,
go.
'cause yeah, but these guys were fighting against him
Mhm,
when he was at Tyre. There were Carthaginians there. Because hey,
yeah,
we're gonna punish these guys. And then his uncle went into Italy. He knew about these Italian tribes. He
yeah,
was gonna take care of them too.
yeah, yeah.
And
Because
with the
that's.
combined resources of everything that he's conquered, oh, they would have stood no chance.
Yeah, again, it's all speculation. Anything could have happened. Someone could have rose and challenged Alexander.
Yeah,
It would have been crazy to see what he could have accomplished if he lived to 60, if he lived even 40. Give him another 10 years or so, of what he could have done, if he consolidated, if he maintained his empire, and then went. Because Rome, like you said, Rome's just, at this time is just a bunch of tribes, right? It's not. But
yeah.
Rome,
There were the Romans. They were good fighters.
yeah,
Um, but yet other tribes around them who are also equally good fighters too. It would have been a mess, I think.
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
you have even like Pyrrhus later going on into Italy, and he learned that wow, these guys are really
yeah. What the
rough
heck?
fighters here.
Yeah. Who are these guys?
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
think they're a little bit stronger in Pyrrhus's time.
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. That's really fascinating to really think about. Like, oh
Yeah,
man,
I mean, yeah, but could you imagine like Rome at the time of Alexander, or even immediately after the time of Alexander, having to fight one of these giant successor armies
yeah.
with all these heavy cav, and now they're incorporating elephants into the
Oh
armies?
God,
They
yeah,
would have got smashed.
yeah,
But they were too busy fighting amongst each other. They never expanded out that
yeah,
way.
yeah. Well, another speculation question. Do you think the world today would be better off if Alexander stayed alive, conquered Rome, conquered all these, Carthage, and created this new big empire? Or do you think him dying and Rome rising to power would be better for the world today?
Um, I think it'd have been almost the same thing. I think
Yeah?
because when the Romans conquered Greece, they kept Greek culture.
Yeah, they copied it. Yeah.
Yeah. If anything, it might have not meant to the rise of Christianity, because it was the
Hmm.
Romans who really brought Christianity to the rise, and they spread Christianity everywhere.
That's true. Again,
Um,
it's hard to like really, you know, again, it's all speculation, but if that is true. I mean, crucifixion was a Roman thing, right?
actually, I think that might have came from Alexander when he took it
Oh,
from.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe, I mean, maybe there could have been, you
I,
know,
I think it would have been a very similar world. I think just without the Christianity.
that's so funny. Yeah, cuz yeah, I mean, Rome is essentially just adapted better. Like
Yeah.
in terms of warfare, they were ahead of the game, but in terms of culture, they're like, hey, these Greeks over here, their culture is pretty awesome.
It's pretty rich. We should be like
Yeah,
them.
yeah. Even though didn't they act like smug about it? They're like, we're better than Greeks, you
Yeah, you
know.
have some who are really smug about it, but then you have like some famous Romans who are like, "Man, these Greeks are awesome.
Yeah.
We should be just like them." You know, they
Yeah.
were adapting Greek dress, uh,
Yeah.
adapting other things that the Greeks were known for. So
Yeah. Well, again, I brought up earlier Marcus Aurelius with the Stoicism, and he would read ancient, or he would read like old Greek philosophers. I think it was a difference of Socrates. I might be getting this wrong. I might be thinking. I have to definitely check, but I think Socrates was born like 400 years before Marcus Aurelius. I think.
it's definitely long before Marcus Aurelius, since he was
Yeah.
towards the end of the Roman.
Yeah, like it was a long time. So when you think about, because when you think, sometimes it's easy to think back of these famous characters, and it's like, yeah, they all lived near the same time. Well, no, they were like hundreds of years apart. So to kind of think of a Roman emperor hundreds of years after these famous Stoic Greek philosophers who's fully embracing it. That's like us. I mean, 400 years is a long time. That's like us looking back to medieval time
Yeah,
period,
it's
and
like
that's
we hardly know George Washington. It's like
yeah, yeah,
it's such
yeah,
a different time back then.
exactly. So, it's just really fascinating to kind of think about, kind of really put it in perspective and stuff. But yeah, I think you're right. I agree. I don't think it would have been much different in terms of how they ruled in the society and the culture, and because
Yeah,
Western society is built on a lot of Roman and Greek ideals,
exactly.
philosophy, democracy, republic, that kind of stuff. So,
Hmm.
yeah,
Just
but
my opinion. So.
yeah. And who knows what kind of leaders we would see? I mean, maybe we wouldn't have had Caesar, but maybe some new guy would have rose and would have been amazing,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But that's always fun to think about. But yeah, so I wanted to talk more about this because this is one of the things I only learned about recently. The last time we did this little podcast, uh, we talked about how Alexander. I mentioned when he died, they propped him up in a chair, right, as just a
Yeah,
corpse, and you said they would have like meetings in front of him, and
as long as his body's still there, that's still Alexander. And it's
that's
like, yeah, they didn't find it creepy at all. They're
yeah.
like, yeah, he's back here, guys. This is a legit meeting, guys. So, let's start discussing, guys. Who gets Egypt? Who gets
Yeah,
Greece?
yeah, it almost seems delusional. Like they go from like some of them not really liking him, like I'm sick of this guy, to then he dies and it's like, oh my god, like put his body there and he'll be part of the meetings and he'll look upon us. Like that's
Exactly.
so bizarre. Because you think, I mean, obviously the respectful thing is send his body back to Macedon and bury him, there. But I think in their own selfishness they left him around. Like you said, if you have his corpse, you have power, which is so bizarre. I mean, and
Yeah. And that's exactly why Ptolemy hijacked his body, because he
Yeah.
wanted all the power himself.
So he legit like snuck the body out and brought it to
Oh,
Egypt.
he didn't sneak it out. He intercepted the body when it was in transit back to. This is going back to Greece. So
Oh,
in force, they took that corpse.
wow.
They brought it back to Egypt.
And that gave him power.
It definitely made him more legitimate, I think.
That's
It's like, hey,
insane.
this guy has Alexander overlooking him.
Yeah.
This guy is the real deal, guys.
I mean, if for me personally, I'd be like, I would have been pissed. I'd have been like, his body was going to Greece. He was going home, and some jerk shows up, takes him. And am I supposed to respect the guy? You know? You know? But maybe they had a different thought process, like this is what the gods wanted or something, you know? And
Yeah, I mean, Alex,
that
want to be back in Alexandria, right?
and you told me there's a story of a guy walking by the body and like hitting his nose or something, and his
It was
nose.
actually a Roman commander, or a Roman. I forget which Roman it was. It might have been Nero or Caligula. I forgot. It was one of those guys. He got really
One of the
close.
bad ones.
It might
I
have
mean,
been.
you just said two awful emperors, Nero and
Hold on. Gosh, I mean, I can look it up really fast, but
I mean, so a
for
Roman
defeat purpose.
emperor, Roman
Yeah, Roman
emperor.
emperor was like, yeah, maybe I'll take some of his armor. And then you get so close that you knock his nose right off. Because like this body's decayed.
Yeah,
It didn't take that long for a body to decay. So at this point, it was like, boing, his nose came right off, and it was recorded in history. So apparently, it was a big deal.
right. Wow. And how long? How long? I mean, what's the time there? How long was his body not buried? So this was in Egypt when this happened. It was
Yeah, I mean,
like,
it was still like in a. I guess it might have been an open casket. It might have been a cliff or something.
okay. So he went in, was trying to grab the armor, and he knocked the nose off.
It was something like that.
Yeah,
He might have even opened it up himself. Just
yeah.
you go, hey, let's get some stuff. This is a good
Smell that
reserve on
air.
there. Yeah,
It's
it's like a
fresh.
PR stunt.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
true.
Alexander did it himself when he went to when he went to Troy.
Yeah.
Like he took the armor of Achilles,
Oh, did
apparently.
he?
Yeah, and he like danced around naked with his best friend. Hey, look at me! I'm like Achilles.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I guess it was just a thing that
Greeks
they did
did.
back then. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess we still do it today. We rob these tombs. We
Well,
unbury them.
well, maybe in like Egypt, right?
I
But
mean, people rob graves all the time.
that's true. That's true. But it's not so much out of like, I mean, it's more for money, right? The jewelry, the gold, and that kind of stuff.
Well,
But
also like as a souvenir, prestige. Let's say you're this Roman guy, this Roman ruler, and you have Alexander's armor on you. It's like, whoa, this
well, yeah,
guy.
that's different. But in terms of today, no one's robbing a corpse for prestige. At least not in the West, you know.
I don't know. If you knew that like Elvis was buried with his guitar,
And someone,
I,
dude,
there would be one person who goes out there, at least one person, probably millions. Oh, I'm gonna pop this baby open, take his guitar. Look at me.
yeah. But if you did that, the world would hate you. Because
Yeah.
I think back then maybe it was more acceptable, you know, like
I mean, if you're the ruler of Rome, like no one can really do
yeah,
anything
no
about
one's gonna
that.
question you.
Yeah.
Yeah. At
I
least
just think it's an
not for a
opportunity.
while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eventually they'll be like, all right, I'm sick of this guy's shit. We're gonna put a
Exactly.
sword in his belly. Like, let's move on.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's interesting. So there is a legend of, or because it could be a made up story, but he went in to Troy, found where he was buried. I mean, did Troy? I mean, I guess obviously they gave him a pretty epic burial site. You know,
I'm assuming
Achilles.
it was somewhere there, but that's where he died, Achilles.
Right,
And
right.
it is recorded that he was, at Troy. I mean, we eventually found the side of Troy. I think in Alexander's time it might have been easier, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I think they like expanded upon it and
Yeah,
land. Yeah, yeah.
but
So
it's recorded. I don't see why they would brag
lie
about
about it.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, it's not something so. It's not exactly like epic. You know, like
Yeah, it's like,
yeah,
look
it's
at
like
me.
yeah, like he just stole from a dead guy. Like that's kind you know.
Yeah,
Well,
but I mean, he did trace his. He did trace his lineage back to Achilles, so maybe it belonged to the family, maybe.
Yeah, family heirloom, right?
Exactly. This is mine.
Yeah,
That's
that's
mine, guys.
funny. Sorry, I think my headset is dying. I got a
Oh,
wireless
that's
one.
fine. I've got all my sound coming in through one ear.
Oh,
It's
okay.
kind of disconcerting right now.
There you go. Also, Napoleon always is referred to being short when he actually wasn't, but Alexander was actually the short one, right?
Yeah. Okay. So two things. I stood next to a wax figure of Napoleon
Yeah,
in London.
yeah.
He was like 3 or 4 inches taller than me. I'm
Well,
like, this guy's short.
wait. Hold on. This was in where? The UK?
Yeah, it was near Tower Bridge. Actually, no, it was Madame Tussauds, I think, the wax museum.
Okay. Well, I don't trust anything the British do on Napoleon. So
I mean,
how tall was? Because historically he was like 5'6", 5'7", right?
yeah. So I'm short. You already know that. I'm like 5'3".
Yeah.
So, but as a kid growing up here, Napoleon's this really short guy. We had this complex named after him, and when
Yeah.
I stood like inches below him, I was like, "Dang, I'm like super duper short."
Yeah.
But you know the story. A lot of that has to do with the fact that his guard were selected because of their really tall height,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that made him look really short.
That, and also their I think like their measurement was a little
Might have been
longer
yeah,
so than the British. So when yeah, there was like an error of translate, and also propaganda. Like the
yeah,
British,
character
yeah,
assassination.
yeah. Little Napoleon will sneak into you. You know, if you don't go to bed, you know,
Exactly.
little Napoleon is yeah, he's gonna come over and haunt you or
He's gonna
whatever.
conquer your bed, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, for Alexander, like, here's a weird thing. There aren't any things about his height, but there's one thing written.
Yeah.
Like when he took over the Persian throne, he went to go sit on it, right? And his men were like, "Oh shoot, his feet are dangling. That looks kind of bad." So they pulled up this table, which really offended the Persians there. It made them cry
Yeah.
because it was like this really
Made him
secret thing.
cry.
Yeah.
Did it?
So the Greeks, they pulled this table below his feet so that it wouldn't dangle anymore,
Yeah.
and that's why people think that he's short. Is because of that,
Okay.
and that since that's the only thing that mentions his height, that's probably
Yeah,
it might be true.
it might be. And
Yeah,
was the source legit?
it was okay. Here's I need to look at it's either from the one of the extant sources or it might have been from one of the fantasies that were written after after his period. Because like
Yeah.
there was a book that was written about Alexander, but it was known to be fantasy. Some of it might have been true.
Yeah.
'Cause in that fantasy book, it had Alexander breaking into Darius's his kitchen and stealing his silverware,
Yeah.
and it was just bizarre to read about that. So,
Yeah.
but there might have been some basis of reality in it. I had to look that up again, so I do apologize for not knowing.
Oh no, no, I mean and maybe the throne was just big. Like maybe it was even big for, you know.
It might have been
Yeah.
because apparently Darius was like this really tall guy, so it might have been
Uh
a really big throne.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, that's I mean, I don't know what I was going to say there.
I'm sorry.
I had a brain fart. No, no, that's just cool. The cool little like little bits of like deeper history, you know, and stuff. All right, so I gotta ask you, what is your favorite battle of his?
Oh, the Hydaspes.
Hydaspes? And
Yeah, just because that's when he fought in India against King
right.
Porus. For me, that showed the highlight of everything that he's learned in his military. Not everything, but it just showed the adaptability,
Mm-hmm.
flexibility, and determination of Alexander. Because in that battle, this is the first time they fought against a mass amount of elephants.
Mm-hmm.
They had to cross a raging river, and the Indians they weren't going to let him cross. So he had to basically split his forces in two.
Yeah.
And in that battle, he's a huge decoy to convince the Indians that he was still there. He dressed one of his own men like him,
Oh yeah?
and he had him like standing out there giving orders. They go, "Oh, Alexander's still in front of us." No, he during the nighttime he walked around with the split of his force,
Mm-hmm.
completely around, but they still thought Alexander was in front of them because here's this guy with his helmet, like giving all these orders out, and then they have to cross this raging sea at night, and it's not easy crossing a river
Right.
that's going
At
nuts.
night too. Yeah.
Yeah, and they even crossed onto the wrong island apparently.
Oh
They got there
God.
and go, oh shoot, we have to cross another time. So they crossed twice in this raging rapids. And then
Wow.
when they finally got there, that's when Porus' son kind of confronted him.
Yeah.
Alexander blasted him out of the way. And then when they finally got to the Indians, they learned that their horses are having a hard time, getting close to these elephants because the way they smelled,
Yeah.
it kind of terrified them. So Alexander had to learn and adapt to winning this battle. So
Hmm.
in a nutshell, I liked this battle because Alexander had to learn on the fly
Yeah.
on how to win. But because of his previous military achievements, he was able to push through and finally,
Fine.
win the day.
Find a way.
But,
So
but it just showed so many different, aspects of Alexander's military prowess.
so did he cross the river like before the battle happened, trying to set it, or like you said?
It was before. Well,
Okay.
it's hard to say. Like for me, a battle starts when two armies know they're there.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So you could say it happened after, or
Or,
during the
or
battle.
or at the beginning of the battle.
Yeah, but for the longest time, Alexander they would be looking at each other for days,
Trying
weeks.
to get intel and
Yeah, and Alexander would parade back and forth, making all this noise,
yeah.
and you go, "Hey, I'm gonna find a river crossing here. One where you guys
Yeah.
aren't defending it for us."
Yeah.
So he had to keep doing this. Just keep doing this.
Right. For days.
So, eventually, he dressed up his own guy to look like him,
Oh man,
and then
imagine being that guy.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
getting like an
But like,
arrow in your face.
well, not only that, but like, oh, like I get to look like him and pretend to
Oh
be
yeah,
him. You know, like
everyone's jealous.
has to be an honor. Yeah, and just
Yeah, I
pretending.
would have taken that armor and just like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, did he?
Um,
So did he give him the armor?
yeah, he made him look exactly like him.
So it was like it wasn't like a recreation of his armor. It was like this is his armor.
It would have to have been his armor, but like
Oh,
I don't think they made armor for that purpose just to look like him.
right.
So it would have to been something that Alexander owned that made him distinctive on the battlefield, and that the Indians could recognize from across the river that that's
Because I mean,
Alexander.
was that the first battle against the Indians or
It was the first battle against King Porus
King
because
Porus?
he fought other Indians.
Right.
I hate saying Indians because they were known for different names,
Right,
like
but
the Malians.
yeah.
But just to be
In a
general,
general sense, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, there were many brutal battles against Indians, but this is the first time where this King Porus guy he had all these elephants with him,
Yeah,
and it was something they had never seen. They've seen elephants, but not used in battle like that.
right. And okay, so and I'm sure, the King Porus he heard of Alexander. Like he
Oh
knew
yeah,
he knew he was coming. He knew what he looked like. He knew the iconic helmet he had. I mean,
I mean,
I
probably in
assume
his defense, he was looking for like the most distinctive looking
that's true. That's true.
Macedonian.
Yeah. So okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, if this was their first battle, what did he know? I guess he was just looking for the guy who looked a little fancier and was giving out orders.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, that's Alex, and I'm sure he heard about Alex. At that
Oh yeah,
time.
he
Yeah.
definitely knew because again he was fighting other Indians at the time,
Yeah.
and that's why this guy was defending in full force, going, "Hey, you're not crossing this river, man.
Yeah.
If you want to cross this, you're gonna have to go over this river and right into my swords."
Right. And that's really cool. Like, I would love to get more of the. I don't know how much of the Indian perspective of this event but just kind of putting yourself in the shoes of the Indians and just like hearing about this. I mean, I assume they know about Greece at this time. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure you had some trade going back and forth,
right. Yeah.
and they also have like what do you call it? Um, yeah, you have like sculptures that prove that the Greeks were in India.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So yeah, they know about the Greeks. They had to have been like, "What the hell are they doing here? Like, what
Yeah.
the, like,
What do they
what are you
want?
doing? Like, what do we got? I had to have been such a surreal, like, seeing Greeks
Yeah,
in your own homeland. Like that had to have been like so surreal to see that.
yeah, it's definitely not something they wanted to see.
Yeah, it's like what the heck? Like what all the way from Greece you're here? Like what is going on?
Yeah, and then plus, these Indians were in a similar situation. They were fighting each other too.
Yeah.
They weren't a united India.
Did they unite at all in the face of Alexander? Is-
Uh, I
Or
mean, maybe after they go, hey, there's this new threat coming in,
yeah.
and that's why Alexander's men were warned. It's like, hey, there's more elephant armies out there. I'm not sure if they united so much, but they were definitely not going to lay down for these
Yeah.
Greeks.
I mean, I'm surprised none of the other, Indian type cultures or tribes, whatever you want to call them, tried to reach out to Alexander, kind of use him and be like, hey, if you help us destroy these Indians, put me as king of the Indians, but I'll serve under you, you know?
Well, after the battle, Alexander gave King Porus all of his territory back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Porus was like, treat me like you would, like one of your defeated people.
Okay, so
Was that battle?
I mean,
I think so. Shoot,
so,
I'm sorry. I'm like brain farting right now.
no, it's
But
cool.
he gave everything back to Porus, and then Porus was basically his ally at that point.
Oh, okay. So he would have, I mean, he could have used the elephants to his,
He wouldn't have used them because he went on record as saying these elephants are too unpredictable. They're as likely to turn on me.
yeah.
It was only his successors that incorporated the elephants.
Okay, like the Seleucids and stuff, and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like they saw value in it, but Alexander saw the value in not using elephants.
that's interesting. That's interesting because I mean, you would think after fighting, I guess he figured out how to easily manipulate the elephants, and he was like, nah, they're not that good.
Yeah, once he hurt them a lot, they started turning on their own men, and he did not want that happening to his guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of them running amok, and
Yeah,
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's cool. So okay, yeah. I mean, I'm curious. I mean, do you think he could have conquered all of India or of what that time India was?
if if he kept going, I don't think he could have. But if he consolidated what he had and then rebuilt,
And then waited a little bit and then yeah.
yeah, refresh, put more Eastern troops in your armies,
Yeah.
and then go in there. But with the army that he had, it was pretty big, but it was dwindling. These guys were tired of fighting. I
Yeah.
don't think they could have kept going.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably why he turned back, because he
Yeah,
just knew.
he was forced to.
Yeah, he just knew. He's like, this is not going well. Okay, that's really. And what was that siege battle? I remember you talking about the siege battle where he said something like, I think someone said like, if for them to take this fortress, they're gonna have to learn how to fly or something. And then he had
Oh yeah,
guys.
that was. I'm not sure if it was the Sogdian Rock. This is out like Afghanistan, Bactria.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where it's really
like he went
rocky.
there, even though he had a history of laying sieges to impossible places
Yeah,
like Tyr or Halicarnassus. This guy goes to this rock, and these guys were pretty confident that Alexander couldn't take that rock, even though he was great in pitch battles. They're like, "Yeah, if you guys can learn how to fly, you can totally
yeah,
take this rock from us." So overnight, Alexander picked his best mountain climbers,
yeah,
and then he had them climb up the other end, and then they had these white cloths on them. So when he gave them the signal the next day, all right, here are our Greeks who can fly, and then they were like waving their arms, and then I believe without a fight they surrendered because they knew that these Greeks could climb these mountains, and that was enough for them to.
it's just fear. Yeah,
Yeah, it's fear.
yeah,
It's like, well, if he can do that,
yeah.
he's probably really pissed if we make him fight for this rock.
That's funny. It reminds me of kind of I think it was Black Sam, the pirate. I forgot his last name. But Sam, he was known for using fear tactics to cause other ships to surrender before even fighting, and he would strip naked. Everyone would strip naked and be like, and they'd be like, okay, like just
That's
sort of,
weird.
yeah. I mean, it's that mind game, of So that's really cool. I mean, again, that shows his ability to adapt and come up with these creative things. And that's the other thing is like I believe Philip kind of made Greeks better at sieging, right? pretty sure like the Greeks weren't really known for their siege craft and their siege efficiency.
Yeah, they would lay siege. It probably wasn't as sophisticated as Philip's. Because like
Yeah.
their idea of a siege would be like, just starving them to death,
Yeah. Yeah,
like
just wait them out.
yeah, kind of wait them out. I mean, I wouldn't say Philip was completely different, but he actually had all kinds of artillery that he could use.
Yeah.
Now I don't know when the artillery came into play though. I would have to look that one up.
Yeah.
But I would say under Philip, the sieges got a lot better. But Alexander's the one who really took
Yeah.
it to the next level.
Right. Philip laid the foundation and Alexander finished it.
Yeah, I think with Alexander's case, that took so much creativity that's the kind of limitations I think Philip had. I
Yeah.
don't think he could have taken Tyr, the island of Tyr.
Yeah.
I don't think he could have taken Harley. He probably could have taken Harkonassus, but like going out east, I'm not sure if he could have adapted. That's speculation. But that was something that Alexander could lay claim to.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, that's that whole story about having his mountain climbers climb and, you know, with like cloaks or whatever to make them look like they had wings or whatever. That seems like such an insane gamble. You know, like it just
oh yeah,
seemed it just seemed like crazy, but it worked. You know, it's just one of those things where imagine being in the army and you hear Alexander go, "Okay, guys, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get our best mountain climbers. They're gonna go up there, and don't worry, they're gonna surrender. Like they're gonna see this, and they're gonna be like, wow, the Greeks are like magical, you know." And I mean, because
yeah.
what if they didn't surrender? You know?
It would have been a costly siege, but Alexander showed he was not he was not going to just go around him. He was going to take him out.
Yeah, yeah, because they could have been like, they could have looked up and saw those people and been like, okay, like that's like a handful of guys. We're not gonna surrender, you know? I mean, it would have.
Yeah.
So for that to work is pretty cool. I mean, I guess if it didn't work, you wouldn't hear about it. I'm sure he's done some things throughout his campaigns where, you know, he did something and didn't work and you don't really hear about it.
I mean, there are cases where like he had setbacks, but
Yeah.
he always bounced back. Like some of the sieges, he couldn't take everything in that town, but he would come back and just eventually take it all over.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Speed
Like
bumps.
when he went to the it was some Indian town held by the Malayans.
Hmm.
It's like he got struck down with a giant arrow, and
Yeah.
he was on the verge of of dying, and his men saved him
Yeah.
from that.
Okay.
So yeah, they definitely recorded a lot of his mistakes.
Yeah. Well, again, he was like very crazy at times. Like he put himself in the front line and stuff. And I mean,
Oh yeah.
some say he died from his wounds, right? I mean, some say that was like a part that kind of contributed to his early death.
Yeah, I would say it definitely didn't help him having those famous wounds.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's scar tissue and
Yeah.
possible infection. I mean, he could have had like a piece of wood stuck in him that they didn't get out or whatever. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely not good for you. This looks like a boxer getting hit in the head
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the
it's not.
time.
Yeah, it's not good for your brain. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. And yeah, I mean, he also dealt with the Persian chariots effectively, where they formed that kind of like box almost, where they'd let the chariots in, and then they'd encircle it. Kind of. I don't know if there was like a term for that tactic. Um,
Probably just take advantage of how primitive the
Chariots
chariots
are.
were.
Yeah, because weren't
At least the
they?
one that the Persians were using. 'Cause, like
Yeah.
I know that the Britons used them to pretty good effect, but in Alexander's time, those chariots were pretty. They're more of a psychological weapon.
Right. Right. So
And
do you think he knew like that was already in the Greek playbook, or did he come up with that?
he knew they were there because he took the time to to move his troops around accordingly. I when he saw them coming, I believe he what did he do?
Well, I mean, like I'm. Do you think they knew that tactic, or do you think
The
Alex?
Persians or
No, no, the Greeks. Like they've dealt with chariots in the past and they've done that before. Because this was like that was like that tactic there of like him destroying the chariots was a very very big moment in that battle. It's always talked about, you know, and people say, "Oh, it was the last time chariots were ever used." Uh, do you think the Greeks already knew like Philip had the ideas of like, oh, this is how we beat chariots, or do you think Alexander came up with that tactic?
It's hard to say who came up with it because that's on the tactical level. So it
Yeah,
might have been even his field commanders who did it.
that's true. That's true.
Um,
That's a good point. Yeah,
and and he had like the best military advisors
yeah,
possible in the Greek world.
yeah.
But whatever the case, those type of chariots were already outdated in Alexander's time.
Okay, so it was kind of
Yeah,
like, lol, like, what are you doing?
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
okay, dinosaurs next.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like civil when you play Civilization and you're like super teched up and this,
yeah,
yeah,
but the way that the like the Celtics used chariots, they use it basically for transportation. That's why they were a lot more effective in using chariots
mm,
because they didn't go, hey, we're gonna like tank you guys down with these chariots.
yeah,
We're gonna use it for for maneuverability,
right.
transportation, and whatnot.
Which is funny because I feel like if you look at like the Battle of Hastings, like those armies had cav, but most of the time the horses were used for transportation rather than the warfare. Um,
Yeah, I mean, what the Normans had a pretty effective.
the
What did
Normans were good with cav.
Yeah,
They used them pretty effectively, but the Anglo-Saxons, they just kind of used them to transport, like to move, and then they,
yeah,
because of the
I think
shield
so.
wall and everything, and you know, it
Yeah,
almost seems
less
like,
maneuverability.
yeah, it seems like military tactics like decreased, back like in terms of like creativity and because if you look back in the ancient times, you got these Romans who were like transferring in and out soldiers in the front line and using these really organized legions and cohorts and they were super organized. And then you look at like medieval, early medieval, it was just very kind of like
Yeah,
less.
it's weird. Like some things, become fads and then they fall out of favor, but they later come back. Like pike warfare came back.
Yeah,
Things go in and out, and then when they come back, it could be a shock,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then it might not be a shock.
yeah, for sure. I mean, and then some, because of technology, some tactics just aren't as effective. We saw that in World War I and even the
Yeah,
Civil War, where they used the Napoleonic tactics. And yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, yeah, maybe Alexander didn't really come up with that. I mean, like you said, it's more of a like a tactical kind of thing that a field officer could have come up with. But
yeah,
I guess
it could have been.
I guess I was more wondering if like that was just like that same, like the days before the battle. I mean, because it seems like you'd have to train for it, because that was a pretty delicate maneuver of
Oh
having.
yeah, I mean, they already, these guys scouted all the time,
Yeah,
and they're already like mirroring each other, so they already knew what the army compositions were basically.
yeah. That's,
So they go, hey, they do have a lot of chariots. This is how we're gonna deal with that. They have a lot of infantry, pretty crap infantry, so we should be able to deal with that.
yeah, yeah.
Large amounts of cavalry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they definitely did their homework beforehand. It didn't just like on the day of, oh my god, chariots, we got to do this. They knew a long before that battle that they were
Right.
coming.
Right. I think they were perfectly. I think you're right. I mean, they knew they were going after Persians. They knew what the Persians had, the kind of army build they had, and how to fight it. And like you said, that's what made Alexander genius. Is that as he fought new enemies that they weren't prepared for, he adapted on the fly. Um,
Yeah,
did you ever
exactly.
did you ever hear you mentioned how horses are afraid of the scent of elephants?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of elephants being afraid of horse blood?
No, I haven't.
I don't.
We like kill the horse, and the freaks out the
The
elephant.
rider would literally cut the throat of his horse near the elephants, and it
I
would
can see
cause.
that.
I don't know. Forgot where I heard that from, but I don't know if that was Alexander and his guys doing that, or if that was like a different person. But
Yeah, I feel like that does sound familiar. And with animals, yeah, they freak out
yeah,
over
of
the
blood.
smallest things. Yeah, but eventually they in the Hellenistic times for the successor battles, they taught these horses how to be around smelly elephants.
Yeah,
So it's all about, I guess, training.
in time, and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
because
cool.
yeah, you can prepare an animal for almost anything.
Right, right. I mean, I remember the stories of World War II, the Soviet Union was training dogs that had bombs strapped to them to go under tanks.
Oh, it exploded.
Yeah. And that it would they were doing it and it was working in the test, but when it came to actually implementing it, they didn't train on moving tanks. They trained
Yeah.
on stationary tanks. So the dogs were terrified. So they wouldn't do
Yeah.
it.
Plus all that gunfire going off. It's
Oh
like,
yeah,
so
yeah.
many things could happen.
Right. So it's I always thought it was one, it's horrible. Like all these poor dogs, like they're training
Oh
them
yeah.
to suicide.
That would never fly today.
No, well, I mean, at least in the US, but I could, depends on how, honestly, like it depends how desperate you are for victory. Like if
Yeah.
you're, I mean, if like I had to defend my homeland, I would do everything in my power, even if that means strapping dogs with explosives,
Oh yeah. If I was like a guerrilla fighter
Yeah,
somewhere,
yeah,
I'm like, well, I just have to make do with what I have.
yeah. Um,
But can you imagine those dogs coming back, coming back to the owner?
in
It's just,
pieces.
it just like sets you off altogether.
Oh, because they're
Like, oh,
scared.
shit.
No,
Oh,
no, no, no,
sure.
no.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No step back. No step back.
Exactly.
Oh man. That's cool. And oh dang, what was I gonna say? I have like
I'm sorry, it's my fault.
yeah, how dare you? How dare
I
you?
know.
Um what do you think it is about these famous military leaders that have these iconic hats? Do you think that's the key, is iconic hats?
I mean, it has some weight. Well, what Duke Wellington said that about Napoleon, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you say about his hat? It's like, no.
I don't remember. I mean, I I wonder, is like, was Napoleon's hat unique back then, or was it just the style that he just became famous with?
It would have to be unique for his men to identify him on the battlefield.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, any field commander, they have to be distinct, visibly speaking,
Right, right.
just so that they know where their commander is at all times.
Yeah, because I know his marshals were referred to as the big hats.
Interesting.
They were the big hats. When you had a big hat, you were
You were one of
someone.
his marshals.
Yeah, you don't mess around with you. And that, I don't know if you've read up on the marshals of Napoleon, but they are really fascinating people.
I've read about them before, like Marshal
Yeah.
Ney.
Ney, and yeah, there's a ton about their stories of all their different backgrounds, and there's certain marshals that were good at like fighting, certain marshals that were good at like analytics, and yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like Alexander's.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get to is, how important do you think it is to kind of surround yourself with like really smart, really, epic people that will only kind of push you forward. Did Alexander have a lot of that? I know you mentioned he had a lot of smart people around him and stuff, but in terms of other military commanders under him, where there's some geniuses there.
Yeah, Parmenion. All those people, because like for the Macedonian system, they relied upon feedback from their subordinates. Like these guys would talk to Alexander like they're kings too. They will tell him when his plans are crap.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
this is a stupid idea. Um, yeah, you have cases where Alexander, he would listen to them, and a lot of times he would follow the orders. A lot of times he would not, though.
Their
But
advice, yeah.
he needed to hear what they were saying, though, basically, so he can hear like counterpoints.
Yeah.
And if you heard a point that held weight, he would definitely stick with it.
Yeah.
It's definitely essential for the Macedonians to do that.
Yeah, no, it is important to be able to challenge your leader and be like, "Hey, that's stupid. That's not a good idea." I'm trying to think of a time when that happened to Napoleon or really any other military leader. I mean, do you know much about Caesar and what he was surrounded by, and if he had that same kind of, advice where people could challenge his tactics?
Caesar was for their armies, they were definitely on top.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were an incompetent one, then you probably had some kind of military advisor.
Yeah.
But the Alexander system for the Macedonians, the companions, they were able to speak to this guy
Yeah.
like really crudely, and they expected that. So I don't think Caesar had anything to that level.
Right. Yeah, Caesar was pretty impressive. Um, and in terms of role, obviously we know that Alexander uh idolized Achilles. Did he have any other I know it's really far back, so it's kind of hard to really know, but like did he have any other kind of like role models he except
Yeah,
maybe his dad, but
yeah. Well, for lineage, he traces lineage back to Hercules and Achilles. So, so a lot of that it actually inspired him. Because like that
yeah.
rock we're talking about,
Yeah.
that rock apparently could not be taken by Hercules. So,
Oh.
so he was like, "Oh, I can one up on Hercules here if I take this rock," and I did.
Yeah.
I'm better than Hercules.
But where
Um,
Hercules used pure strength, he used his mind, That's
yeah, he uses mine and a lot of help.
yeah, a lot of help. Yeah.
A lot of help. Apparently he also he kept a copy of the Iliad
Yeah.
under his pillow.
Who
So
didn't?
yeah, who
It's
did it,
like the
right?
ancient Greek Bible.
Yeah. Apparently he also looked up to who was it? Good gosh. It was one of the Persian kings, like the famous ones.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, like he kept his like a book about him out there. I don't say it's Darius, maybe one of the other Dariuses.
Yeah.
Um, and he also read about Xenophon's march
Yeah.
into Persia.
Uh-huh.
Things that helped inspire him to march
Oh.
into Persia himself.
That's really I
Yeah,
mean, that's one thing in common that all these great military leaders have is that they're well read.
yeah. It's like
Yeah.
they need that
Yeah.
inspiration, and they can learn from their history.
Yeah. Because there's a quote by Marcus Aurelius where he mentions that you might think at first he thought he felt lonely because there was no other Roman emperor he could go and talk to, and be like and understand his plight, his issues of being a Roman emperor. But when he reads a book, it's like he's speaking to other Roman emperors. It's like he's
Oh
not alone.
yeah,
So that's kind of what books kind of offer to people is like you can read about other people who are in similar situations, and take inspiration and learn about their mistakes so you don't repeat them.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, Napoleon says, learn the campaigns of Caesar, learn the campaigns of Hannibal and Alexander,
yeah,
and that was his advice. It's like you got to learn from the greats.
yeah, you got to learn where they did well and where they not do well, and and try to recreate that success. I think that's
Exactly.
really fascinating. It's just a cool way to put it. It's just being so high up. I understand how you could feel lonely, but when you read a book of other leaders, it's like it's kind of that's the great. Like books are like time travel. You can go back and read the thoughts of someone many, many, many years ago, and it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, I mean, I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Is there anything you want to add or anything we didn't cover about Alexander that
Alexander. I mean,
has? How about
there's
this?
too much to cover.
How
Oh,
about this? We'll make this a good way to close it up. Is there anything that you've learned about Alexander that has improved your life today? Like anything that I know that's kind of hard to like. How does someone conquering the ancient world?
well, I mean, he's definitely the one that inspired me to make a YouTube channel and talk about
There you go.
history in my Rome Total War battles.
That's true. So with
And
no Alexander, there would be no
there would
Prince
be
of
no
Macedon.
channel.
There'd be no channel. There'd be no podcast. There'd be no my channel because you didn't have a channel.
Yeah, so I guess in the short term,
Yeah.
Alexander inspired by YouTube. But I
Yeah.
guess in every day, sometimes you just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not saying keep going until people mutiny, but
Yeah.
but you want to just keep going. If you have like a
And
goal that you want to
yeah,
do it.
in the face of adversity, you just keep going,
Yeah,
no matter the setbacks. Yeah.
yeah.
No, for
Just don't
sure.
conquer the Persian Empire, guys. Just
Yeah. And
don't do it.
and another thing I forgot to mention is the obviously how legendary he was when conquering the known world, but what he did for all of humanity by the Greeks going into the east, kind of combining those two worlds, um to where a lot of the stuff we know about the Persians, we kind of, because of like them translating Persian into Greek, you know, and in Greek into Persian, and kind of like bringing a lot of knowledge and information that we would have lost, just like the Rosetta Stone where it's Greek, you know, translating the Egyptian into Greek. So
Oh yeah. You also have like oral history too. Like
yeah,
people will tell these stories, by word of mouth. I
yeah.
don't know if you saw the documentary In the Footsteps of Alexander the Great.
No, I'll check it out though.
Highly recommend it. This journalist this goes to every well, to a lot of locales where Alexander was,
Yeah,
all the way from Greece to Egypt to Afghanistan,
yeah.
and he just listens to the oral history that these local tribes still have of Alexander. It's like
Really?
unmolested history. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I think it's important. It's almost like the same importance of Christopher Columbus going to the Americas, kind of combining the two worlds of the new world and the old world. As, you know, there were many negatives like disease. I think like what was it? Like 90% of natives died before Christopher even got like
Yeah,
there.
a lot of the natives perish in face of
Of
like Columbus, the conquistadors.
yeah.
Yeah, diseases
The
wiped
disease,
them out.
yeah, it wasn't even like the killing and the fighting. It was disease that was the biggest, which is, you know, tragic. It's really sad, but eventually it was gonna happen. Like there was no way out of it. You know, like eventually these worlds were gonna have to meet, and the disease was gonna have to come by, and you know,
Yeah.
it's like
Just,
one.
little off topic. There's this little tribe that lives on this island. I don't know where it's at exactly,
Yeah.
but it's forbidden for anybody to go there because our diseases would wipe out this indigenous
Wait,
population.
where, I mean, I don't want to say where you are. I don't, you know, I don't want to.
It's some island. It might be somewhere in the Pacific. I forgot where exactly.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I thought you said it was near you. I was
No,
like,
no,
whoa.
not near me.
I'd be like,
This is like
that's
this is exotic. It's like people have gotten killed trying to be explorers there, and people
yeah,
say like our government say it's forbidden to go there. It's
yeah,
illegal
yeah.
to go there.
That's
Diseases, man.
yeah, diseases, and also just, I mean, is that the same location where they have like, I think, didn't they find like sculptures or like wood sculptures of planes because they would see them
Uh,
fly overhead and they think they're like gods or something. You ever
I'm not
hear
sure about
about
that.
that?
That might have been a different one, but these guys know we're there.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
they
okay.
fight. Yeah, they fight anybody who comes even close to their shores.
That's kind of
Like
cool.
they have access to arrows, and people
Yeah.
have died trying to go there.
Yeah, I think I've heard about recently, like, I don't I don't know if it was like a missionary guy or
Yeah,
somebody.
I think that might have
Yeah.
been one.
It was
He
like,
tried to go there.
yeah, they shot him a bunch with arrows, and
Yeah, it's like something that we don't consider to be dangerous, maybe like a cold, that could probably just wipe them out.
yeah, that's scary. That's crazy.
Yeah. But
And
oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to kill your conclusion there.
no, dude, hey, this is like I said, lazy history. We can go off, we can talk about whatever, you know?
What
So
else?
what speaking of whatever, is there any like historical topic that you've kind of been looking into recently? And
Dude, I haven't read history in so long. I'm
yeah.
so out of touch with it. But I've got so many books on Alexander's successors
Yeah.
that, I eventually want to start reading into them hardcore.
Yeah. Well, maybe you should make like historical battles with their, you know, the successors battles.
Yeah,
I
I
remember, dude,
should.
those were my favorite when you do like historical battle recreations and you just kind of talk about, you know, everything
Yeah,
that happened.
I gotta say, those are really hard to set up
They are.
because,
It's a lot of effort.
yeah, I feel like I know exactly how many troops you should have and how much money should be spent. So when I see their troop numbers going way up, I just kick them because I know they're building like a legit army.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
you have to do it with people that you know for sure. To just kind of make sure it's almost as if it's a scripted battle, you know, in a way.
almost, yeah,
But you still fight. You try to win regardless.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
some of those battles are so unfair that I want it to be an unknown so that there's an equal chance of either of us winning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I try to find it from the reverse side too, because just to show it's like this battle's so easy, guys.
Yeah, yeah. They really
But yeah,
messed up.
I've had so many cases where people were building legitimate competitive armies against my handicapped armies.
Yeah.
I'm like, really, dude? I already know what you're doing. And they're like, no, this is stupid. That's why I'm doing this. I'm like, I told you exactly why I invited you into this game, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man.
But yeah, sorry. Those
Oh,
are
go ahead.
great battles. Those are great videos to show, though. I love doing those.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's one of my favorites from you. But yeah, I think we can wrap it up. I'm gonna upload this as a YouTube video. I think I'm gonna put it on like podcasts like Spotify and stuff and
Okay.
other locations. But yeah, if you ever see it up, if you guys are watching the YouTube version, you could leave comments. I'm sure you would like anything that we didn't cover or something that we missed, and I'm sure you get on and reply, and I'm forcing you to reply to the comments and answer people's questions.
Answer it.
Yeah, maybe someone will challenge you. You know.
Oh. They're gonna challenge my
Alex is wrong. Yeah.
He's wrong. I said so many wrong facts today.
Nah. Remember, trust me, dude. That's our source.
Nice.
Did you? I think so. You want to do any plugs right now? Just kind of talking about.
Definitely check out Pixelated Apollo.
No. Come on.
Yeah.
No. Your plugs, man. Your plugs.
My plugs.
Yeah. Where can people follow you? Where, what are you up to?
Well,
what do you got?
I'm mostly active on my vlog channel, so
Okay.
check out the Prince of Macedon vlogs
There you
channel.
go.
There's no gaming content. It's just theme parks, travels, movie stuff, all kinds of random things that you won't find on my gaming channel.
Okay. And what about the water bottle?
Oh, I was gonna plug that in a different video.
Oh, okay. Well, just show it. Just show it, because I genuinely need a new one.
Well, this is the coldest water bottle, but when they sent it to me, they put my name on it. Do you see that?
Oh, hell yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, and it's got the YouTube play button on there.
So it keeps your stuff cold, and does it also keep things hot?
So I watched another video where someone put hot stuff in it, and it kept it hot just as long as keeping something cold.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean,
I'm not gonna try it. I'm gonna just stick with cold stuff.
Yeah. No coffee for you?
Nah.
No.
Maybe hot chocolate. Maybe I don't know.
Hot chocolate? Do you not like coffee?
I love it, but I have an addiction problem to it, so I try not to do it.
Oh, well, because of the caffeine?
Yeah, that and soda. I just get crazy addiction. I'm trying to cut that out.
Have you tried like a decaf?
It doesn't taste as good.
Okay. Have you tried Swiss water, the Swiss water method?
No,
Have
what
you
is that?
So basically, it's a 100% organic way of removing, because usually they use like harsh chemicals.
Okay.
It probably, I'm no expert with coffee, but I can't drink caffeine because it'll give me total anxiety and just like it'll give me like, crackhead, like like, so, but I love the taste. So I looked up like, because I didn't want to drink like chemical coffee that's been
screw that.
But it's like a water system where they pull the caffeine with like I forgot exactly. There's a video on it, but they pull it out and then they put the flavor back in. So the flavor is, again, I'm no expert, but it's pretty good.
Expert.
It's pretty good to me. It's pretty good to me. So if you look at decaf, look for Swiss water method. It should say it. Or you could type in, look it up, give it a try. Let me know if you like it or if it just doesn't taste good, because it might not taste good. Again, I'm a coffee pleb, so I'm no expert, but
I think Pixelated's plugging his own stuff right now.
Yeah, I got my own coffee company. No, I
let's see, Swiss water, guys, by Pixelated.
Yeah, no, I don't drink enough coffee to start anything like that. All right, man, I guess we'll wrap it up here. This was really, really fun. Honored to have you to be the first episode of Lazy History. Anytime
to be here.
Anytime you want to come back, let me know. We'll get you back on here. We'll talk about whatever, whatever.
Yeah, I think we'll be talking really soon, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, I got more. I got someone else lined up. We're gonna be talking about the history of music. So
Oh, heck
But
yeah.
yeah, we could literally talk about anything. So again, it's just a chill podcast. Appreciate the support, guys. If you like the podcast, of course, rate it or do whatever you do with podcasts. But that's gonna wrap it up here with us. Thank you, and we'll see you guys around.
See you guys.